Hello everyone, welcome to What If Naruto Had Solo Leveling Powers in Konoha Part 3. Before we start, please go support Kira Uzumaki-1 for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. This is the translated version I made. There will be some wrong he or she calling here because it's translated, so let me clear this. Naruto is a male in this story. Chapter 16. The child was running desperately. A few minutes ago his mother was chased by some very ugly creatures. They were short and green, they had knives or daggers, they seemed very weak, but there were many of them. His mother was not a shinobi, so she sacrificed herself for him. The boy did not know who to turn to help his mother, his country was at war. The ninjas who were good before now hunted people like him for being special, or so his mother told him. They had hidden in a cave where those monsters came out. His mother told him to go to the rebel camp who would protect him because of his special blood. He wandered aimlessly for a few days, his stomach growling for food. Without paying much attention, he arrived at the rebels' camp. A shinobi saw a figure in the fog and prepared to fight. He calmed down when he saw a very small child. "Little one, what are you doing here?" the man asks kindly. "Sir, you have to help my mom," he whimpers. "Calm down, I'll take you to our leader," he reassures. "Is it the Mizukage?" The child trembles. No, we are the rebels," he responds quickly. The man guides the boy through the camp. There were other children without mothers like him, others were lucky that at least one of his parents was with them. "Will my mother be okay, sir?" asks the boy. "I don't know," he answers sincerely. The shinobi knew he was cruel, the boy's gaze darkened. But he couldn't give her false hopes and then destroy them, it was best for him to prepare for the future news. They arrive at a large tent, luckily there was no meeting. The guards let him pass. When they entered they found a very beautiful woman, with orange hair and a tight blue dress. "Tajiro, that child?" asks the woman. "He is of Kekkei Genkai blood, apparently his mother was attacked," he answers timidly. "Little one, could you describe your attackers?" he asks politely with a smile. "Why yes, they were around here," he points out a little higher than his head. "They had green skin and horrible teeth, they carried knives." "Was he near here?" Chijiro asks timidly. Yeah nods his head. "Tajiro, take the child," the woman orders. "What do you think, Ao?" "It's a problem, we don't know what we're facing," the man reasons. "Maybe we should ask for help, we can't afford to break ranks," he comments. "Is Mei-sama sure?" the man questions. "No, but what do you suggest?" The man does not answer. It is true that he could not stop pressuring the Mizukage, they already had victory in his hands. If they asked for help, some of the 4 shinobi villages would approach. Out of interest, but it helps in the end. "I recommend sending to all the large villages. Prepare a crow," the woman orders seriously. Chapter 17. In large villages, they receive a raven from Mizuno Kuni. Only 2 were interested and saw the benefits of this opportunity. Konoha and Suna. The mission was very simple, so they expected the alliance to be the same. The Kazukiage looked at his shinobis, Nakamura Fudo, Kira and Daichi. The latter had his eyes down and was slightly away from his companions. "This is a mission in Kurigakure, there is the possibility of an alliance. But perhaps we are not the only ones interested," the man explains seriously. "Understood," says the 3 ninjas. "You can go," he says goodbye to his soldiers. Outside the room, Fudo and Kira looked at Daichi, each with disappointment in their gazes. Daichi was not feeling very well, he deeply regretted abandoning the blonde, but the others could not claim anything either. For them, Uzumaki Naruto died. "See you at the exit in 10 minutes," Nakamura informs. "See you," the rest say goodbye. In Konoha, the blonde looked seriously at his grandfather. Inside he danced, happy to have a mission. He urgently needed to get out of the village, to get away from his sister for a while who complained all the time about his team. "You will go with Naruto, he will help with strategy and form an alliance," the Hokage informs. "Well, tell Hikari, we'll see you grandpa," the blonde greets. "This child," the old man sighs irritably. Naruto walked to his house to prepare the necessary things. His little sister was not there, probably on the mission most avoided by all ninjas. Catching Tora. The screams that echoed through the village was a clear indication. He just hoped that the youngest wouldn't make too much trouble while she was gone. Uzumaki arrived at the door and found the Nara looking at the clouds, the lazy position and the bump on his head indicating something. Naruto never understood why they were so lazy. "Nara," he greets with respect. "Uzumaki," the lazy man responds. The shinobi left for Kurigakure. The mission is to kill some strange creatures. The leader of the rebellion against the Mizukage asked for help against these monsters because they could not leave aside to fight against those loyal to the cage. Chapter 18. They arrived after 2 weeks, they had to walk through the water to get to Mizu. Luckily they arrived on time at the arrival time. A guy wearing an eye patch greeted the ninjas. "Well, I'm glad you arrived on time. I am Ao, advisor to the rebellion," he introduces. "I will take you to the camp, you will meet with our leader, and then we will guide you to the mission." "Understood," the Konoha shinobi respond. As Ao guides them through the dense fog, Naruto feels his heartbeat excitedly, he couldn't wait to level up. Although they had to go with the rebels first. Several times the Konoha ninjas get lost in the dense fog. Luckily Ao came back for them and they followed the path. They had to be as quiet as possible so that the cage's loyalists would not be alerted. The camp was stable, but easy to deploy from one place to another if they had to abandon it. Naruto swallowed. People met with cold, sad and hateful looks. This is it, the Kurigakure resident alerts. Excuse me, both shinobi say. Ah, other shinobi, that's great, Mei says. I introduce myself, I am Terumi Mei. My pleasure, I'm Naruto and this is Uzumaki Naruto, the sloth presence. My partner will be in charge of carrying out the mission. The Hokage sends me to make a future alliance and provide my services for a time. I understand, Ao will take your partner with the other ninjas who arrived, they are from Suna, he informs with a smile. But, Mei-sama, I won't leave you here alone, Ao says stubbornly. Ao his aura becomes chilling. Do it if you don't want me to kill you. Why yes, he shouts. The blonde leaves behind the man, who was pale. Naruto couldn't laugh a little at the appearance of the ninja, who coughed in annoyance and muttered things about in my time. They reached a large rock wall, walked for a few minutes and found a relief. A cave. There were several people. Naruto stopped abruptly. Uzumaki Naruto? Asks a familiar voice. Nakamura Fudo he greets with a nod. What happened? He asks surprised. Ah, I shouldn't say this, but like you have the leg. When I regained my senses I was fine. I'm not even sure what happened, he answers nervously. But you don't know what happened to you, it's not good for a man like you to be handicapped, he shouts loudly and hits the blonde's shoulder. Naruto looks at the man's missing arm, who says that he shouldn't worry about it. Did you also come on the cage's orders? Uzumaki asks. It's true, come on we must go, he says. All of us from that day are here. Here and Daichi looked at the blonde ninja in surprise. No one knew that Uzumaki was alive. Sarutobi did not allow the information to reach Suna, as the Hokage was upset. Here and he looks at the man. Daichi. Your leg, how he should be in bad condition. She looks at the limb in surprise. What a romantic atmosphere, says a man. Come on, let's take care of this, and then you can kiss. This is Matsumoto Ao presents angrily. He will be in charge of watching over them and taking them back to the camp. The rude man was the first to enter. Ao leaves that place. The others follow him. Without saying anything they enter the cave. Naruto is surprised to see a screen pop up. You have entered a dungeon. Welcome, please defeat the boss. Alert, the use of chakra will be blocked. How is it possible? Naruto wonders. What thing? Kira questions. Nothing, don't worry, she answers with a forced smile. Naruto didn't understand how it was possible that he was in a dungeon. Maybe the door wasn't the same as an instant one or it was something else. They walked for a while through the cave, which was huge. There's something, get ready, Matsumoto orders. Just as the ninja said, some creatures appeared. There were too many of them, but they were ninjas. It was quite simple. Naruto realized that Kira was away from the fight while her hands were shaking. She still hasn't passed that day, she will have to give up her ninja career, Fudo comments. You have defeated a goblin. You have defeated a goblin. That's his name. Naruto kills one with a cut. They continued to carefully advance through the cave. Naruto actually knew it was a dungeon, but he didn't say anything. They came to a small opening, the path divided into 3 hallways. The path divides into 3, Daichi speaks. I'll go to the right, says Matsumoto. So he chose the middle, Daichi adds. Great, the 3 of us will go to the left, Kira comments. Naruto knew that the path chosen was where the boss was. Matsumoto looked at them with a different air. The blonde advanced with his companions. He had to kill the boss, since the goblins did not grant much experience. Oh, God. What annoying creatures, Matsumoto curses. Suiton. Mizutasen Sakura explosive aquatic circle. You place your palms on the ground and circulate chakra underneath it. The chakra surrounds the area in a radius of 5 meters, and jets of water emerge from the ground towards its enemies. The goblins do not resist and fall dead to the ground. I shouldn't be here, but this can help me get to Mei, and I can pass information to the Mizukage, he comments on his plan with a sinister smile. But the buck, yells Daichi. What a pity you shouldn't have heard this, the infiltrator denies, amused. Everyone will know that you killed me, says the Suna ninja confidently. DKS, they are easy to say anything. The enemies surrounded the poor man and brutally murdered him. I couldn't get there in time. He quickly invents a situation. Traitor Daichi goes in to kill. Kurigakure no jutsu, concealment in the mist, performs the jutsu. The fog appears in space. Daichi prepared for combat. In the blink of an eye, thousands of wounds appear on the Suna ninja's body. Ah, he cries in pain. Fudo, let's go back, Naruto orders. Yeah, come on, he states. Uzumaki, Nakamura and Kira exit the hallway, turning to enter the middle path. As they neared the end, Naruto with his keen senses stopped an attack. Matsumoto appeared in front of Kira with his dagger pointed at his head and his eyes open. Oh, pretty fast, he comments, surprised. What are you doing? Naruto questions seriously. Matsumoto's other fist flew towards Naruto's face, but the man easily turned his head and dodged the attack. The Kiri ninja pushed away Uzumaki's grip forcefully. That? Matsumoto wonders. Naruto was also surprised. He was a force worthy of a high-ranking shinobi. Having freed himself from the blonde's grasp, Matsumoto threw his fists at him mercilessly. Without losing his speed, Naruto dodged and counterattacked. The two men exchanged and evaded each other's blows incessantly. Neither of them backed away. As they fought, Fudo grabbed Kira and pulled her away from danger. Fudo-san. Kira couldn't speak, she was surprised. Nakamura was even more surprised than her. Attack and defense exchanged at an incredible speed. He was too fast even to follow with his own eyes. The movements of high-ranking shinobi, almost Kage. They made sense, but Uzumaki Naruto was not the young man he remembered. He was right about his intuition from before. The Naruto that was fighting in front of him was not the same shinobi from before. Having exchanged dozens of blows in the blink of an eye, the two fighters stepped away from each other to catch their breath. Naruto narrowed his eyes at Matsumoto. The blood on your clothes. It's not yours, is it? He questions. You're right. It's that bastard's blood. Putting that aside, and to think that I would meet a shinobi like you here, Matsumoto rubbed his wrists in response. He was really amazed. He had no idea that there was a high-ranking Konoha shinobi. This is not okay. He had thought that today was the best opportunity to act, but Naruto's appearance had ruined his plans. Who are you? What is your rank? Asks curiously, Matsumoto. Uzumaki Naruto. Jounin rank. Naruto summoned Risaka's poison fang in his hand and responded. The enemy was a dagger user with a fast body, a very short-range fighter. Maybe he was a new Jounin, so the difference in experience would be huge. He wouldn't have the chance to show off his abilities. Matsumoto took out a knife from his waist and mocked the Jounin. Can you do something like this? He asks amused. The Kurigakur one used the skill Kurigakur no Jutsu, and his body became invisible. At his disappearance, the blonde shinobi panicked and looked around. The skill Kurigakur no Jutsu was not just simple invisibility. Look, sound and smell. All signals detectable by a human's normal senses would be erased. That was Kurigakur. Regardless of his rank, any Mizu no Kuni shinobi could use it, but this technique was given among Chunins or Jounins. Matsumoto moved behind the Jounin in an instant. His back was completely exposed. He's done. He had expected a difficult fight, but this was much more boring than he thought. If the opponent had anticipated Kurigakur's ability, he might have been able to do something. The difference in experience ended up being the deciding factor, after all. The traitor's knife stabbed directly into Naruto's ribs. Two daggers collided and ignited. With the concealment of him in the mist released, Matsumoto's eyes widened. As the Konoha shinobi's dagger was blocking his. Matsumoto looked at the new Jounin's face in surprise. The man opened his mouth with an expressionless face. It finally appeared. What appeared? Asks the infiltrator. Unable to understand the Uzumaki's words, Matsumoto felt an unknown sense of terror wash over him. Emergency mission. Take care of the enemies. Those with murderous intentions towards the player have been detected. Ensure your safety by taking care of enemies. Enemies to deal with. 1. Enemies in charge. 0. Failure to comply will result in a penalty. Naruto confirmed the content of the emergency mission and breathed a sigh of relief. This was not all for nothing. He had hoped that letting Matsumoto make the first move would result in an emergency mission, just like Mizuki's group. He tested it to make sure and the results were as expected. The moment the traitor struck with murderous intent, the message appeared. There was a reason why he rejected the offer and pretended to panic. Well, Naruto didn't expect to see him use Kurigakur no Jutsu. When Matsumoto disappeared before his eyes, he was a little surprised. After all, the fog concealment skill was a rare skill to behold, especially those who did not have contact with a Mizu no Kuni shinobi. But the moment Naruto focused his senses on him, he could feel the man's presence even with his eyes closed. This was the power of the heightened sense of him. At first, he had invested points in that attribute to determine whether he had to fight or flee from an enemy, but now he had found another use. He was lucky. And thanks to that, Matsumoto was startled as if he had seen a ghost. How did you do it? All that was left was to take care of him and get the mission reward. It was his turn now. Time to attack. The two men put force behind their daggers, trying to push towards the other. Their forces were equal. Should I try something else? Naruto quickly slammed his foot against Matsumoto's. Having focused on the clash of daggers, the infiltrator was caught off guard by the sudden wave of pain that shot from his foot and recoiled. Naruto didn't give the man any room to breathe. Sprint. Sprint has been activated. Your movement speed is increased by 30%. While active, 1 mana will be used every minute. As Naruto quickly chased after the man, Matsumoto was surprised once again. Until now, he had felt that his speed was equal to the blonde's, maybe he was just a little faster. But seeing the Uzumaki suddenly speed up a level, the Mizu shinobi couldn't afford to lose a moment of concentration. Naruto closed the gap in an instant and stabbed his dagger into Matsumoto's thigh. Arg, it was an attack that pierced the defense of the infiltrating shinobi that had focused on his upper body. You have inflicted paralysis. The resistance of the target is very high. Effect cancelled. You have inflicted bleeding. The target will lose 1% health per second. One of the special effects of Risaka's poison fang took effect. It was a shame it wasn't paralysis, but bleeding would still make the fight a lot easier. But Matsumoto maintained his pride as a high-ranking shinobi, his stamina was not at all low. He jumped after Naruto with his knife. Uzumaki dodged the knife by a hair's breadth and counterattacked towards the enemy's vitals. Even with a wound on his thigh, the man skillfully blocked the blonde's attacks. Both of the fighters' eyebrows became moist with sweat. The speed is almost the same. Our speed is the same. The two men mentally praised each other's speed and continued their very short-range speed battle. A single false step would mean defeat. The duo attacked each other mercilessly, with attacks meant to kill. A spectacle that would drain the blood of those who watched it. It was truly a fight to the death. Naruto focused the force in his eyes. Matsumoto looked into the Uzumaki's eyes and shuddered. That, you have inflicted fear. The target will lose 50% of its attributes for 1 minute. It worked. Naruto made sure of victory. On the other hand, the traitor's eyes trembled. What is happening to me? He murmurs nervously. After meeting Naruto's eyes, he suddenly felt like he had been immersed in deep water. His body felt heavy, as if he was struggling to move underwater. The speed that he was so proud of was drastically reduced. The scales had lost their balance. Uzumaki's attacks began to hit. One by one, wounds began to appear on Matsumoto's body. This cannot be. The Jounin rank shinobi was panicking. This was definitely an effect of a status ability. He had never heard of a shinobi who could use a status jutsu and affect another. How was it possible for him to have that speed? Naruto couldn't finish his thought. His panic quickly turned to terror. Naruto was charging straight at him from the front. Matsumoto swung his knife at the blonde's eyes with all his speed as a last resort. Uzumaki quickly turned his head but was scratched by the knife on his cheek. But this amount of damage was in his calculations. He had thrown his entire body into the decisive blow, anticipating dodging the desperate counterattack. The two men had fought in a world where time had slowed down. At his infinitesimal end, Matsumoto frowned at the realization. Shit, the man curses. Stab. Risaka's poison fang sank into Matsumoto's chest. The man coughs, his eyes widen in pain. At that moment, the two men knew it was over. The victor had been decided. Blood seeped from the corner of Matsumoto's mouth. He smiled with a mouth full of blood. Of all the days possible, he had to meet a powerful shinobi on a mission today. I really have bad luck, he murmurs. The knife in his hand fell to the ground. As he gasped for breath, Matsumoto whispered something in Naruto's ear. Naruto allowed the man to say his last words, then pulled the dagger from his chest. Matsumoto's body collapsed to the ground, like a puppet with its strings cut. You have completed emergency mission. Take care of the enemies. The reward for completing the quest has arrived. Do you want to check it? Yes or no? If it weren't for the reward, this matter would have been a red on his ledger. Naruto tried to console himself with that thought and checked the reward. You received the following reward. Reward 1. Status points +5. That. Naruto looked at the reward in disbelief. He was much smaller than what he had received for dealing with Mizuki's group. The difficulty this time was much greater, he complains. Did the number of enemies matter more than his skill? Or was there some other factor involved? Naruto tilted his head, then, something caught his attention behind the screen. There was a stone-sized light almost like a coin coming from Matsumoto's body. Naruto's eyes widened. He couldn't believe it, but it was the same light that came from the monster corpses. The same light also appeared on the corpses of the magical beasts with magical cores. And now, the light came from Matsumoto. What can be? He calmed his heartbeat and extended a hand toward the traitor's corpse. The screen that emerges from the system tells you one thing. He was not wrong. You have found skill rune. Stealth. Do you want to purchase it? Skill rune? He wonders. Wait, a skill rune? His heart began to beat again with excitement. The skill that Matsumoto used had been left as a rune on his corpse. If Naruto could obtain a skill rune with that skill. Acquire. A small stone with runes inscribed on it appeared in his outstretched hand. Skill rune. Stealth. Break the stone to acquire the skill. He had to break the stone to absorb the ability. This confirmed that it was indeed a skill rune. Breaking this would give you access to stealth. Naruto had never heard of something that granted someone else's ability like stealth, which alone makes the item priceless. Then, two people shouted behind him. Naruto-san, are you okay? Naruto-san. The blonde quickly hid the rune in his pockets and turned around. Nakamura Fudo and Kira looked at him in disbelief. To think that the blonde's skills were on another level, almost like an Anbu. The non-combatant Kunoichi Kira might not fully understand the situation, but the combatant Nakamura Fudo understood how incredible this was. Naruto looked over his body. Yes, I'm fine. At a glance, everything seemed fine. There wasn't any specific place that was sore. But when he turned his head, the blood that had pooled under his chin dripped onto the floor. Naruto touched his cheek, the cut he received during his final attack was bleeding. Ah. I'll heal him, Kira says firmly. The green light gathered in Kira's hands, and even that small wound quickly disappeared. The shinobi Jounin had defeated another without any major injuries. Young man, how did you Fudo begins. Fudo couldn't finish his sentence. Naruto knew what he wanted to say, so he opened his mouth instead of him. I'm sorry. I'll be able to tell you the whole story someday, but right now, don't ask me any questions. When Uzumaki responded in a stern and sincere voice, Kira nodded her head. Nakamura hesitated, then nodded as well. If you say it like that, I'm sure you have a good reason. I understand. Then, the Leaf Shinobi turned his head towards the boss room. They had hit a bump in the road, but he wanted to complete his original goal. However, he had to send the other two away. He wanted to do a solo boss fight, and there was something he wanted to do without the others watching. I'm sure continuing with the raid after all this is too much for you two. Why don't they leave the place and contact the rebels? I'll stay behind and see if there are any survivors, Naruto asked Fudo. Nakamura intuitively understood what Uzumaki was asking. That sounds good, Kira, why don't we go? The healer hesitated, then ran towards Naruto. They greeted each other, or at least Kira was bold and hugged him. But even as she left the cave, she looked back. Confirming that the two were gone, Naruto sighed. He had hoped to hide the abilities from him for a little longer. But now that there were two more witnesses, he couldn't delay it much longer. It's not like he wants to threaten Kira and Nakamura. Killing the shinobi would be ruled out as a common act in the shinobi system. Since he had two witnesses, there would be no problem. He decided to go that route. He would claim that he was just any Jounin and that he would submit to recognition. No one would believe the truth about the system or the level ups, and he didn't want to reveal that particular detail. Having determined that he was going to undergo a new test, Naruto felt a slight sense of disappointment. I was planning to do it after I got a little stronger. But sometimes, things just didn't go as planned. There was nothing he could do. I wonder what my new rank will be. He felt equal to Matsumoto, so maybe he was a little above the Anbu rank. Naruto had thought that he had become stronger, but the difference in strength between the Anbus and the Sannin exceeded his expectations. Well, I'll worry about that later. Right now, he had to focus on the boss. The D-rank dungeon had only displayed E-rank magical beast so far. This meant that the magic power that was detected when measuring the difficulty of the dungeon mainly came from the boss. He walked to the traitor's body and carried it to the boss's room. The goblins went crazy with the dead bait, they were very hungry, and saliva was falling from their horrible mouths. They desperately began to devour the body. If that were the case, he could probably gain some experience points. Could an ordinary human watch this violent spectacle of a man being eaten alive while eating lunch? Naruto scanned the room with narrowed eyes, searching for the boss. There he is. A large goblin was sitting arrogantly in a distant place in the room. His subordinates distracted by the bait, the boss was left unattended. This was the Uzumaki's chance. Sprint. The blonde walked past the goblins and appeared before the goblin chief. The boss tried to get up in surprise, but his head was rolling on the ground before he was completely standing. You have defeated the dungeon boss. You have leveled up. Oh, I forgot. Looking at the head of the goblin chief on the ground, Naruto remembered the rune stone that he had obtained moments before. If he used stealth, he probably wouldn't need to use bait to get to the boss. Naruto clicked his tongue at the shredded remains of the shinobi. The body could no longer be recognized as human. However, Uzumaki felt no sense of compassion towards the man. The plan had worked after all. It was easy to take care of the remaining goblins once they had lost their leader. Kiak, Iac, Kiak. The goblins tried to flee from Naruto, but were felled in an instant. Kiak. As the last goblin fell, a rather cheerful sight appeared before Naruto's eyes. You have leveled up again. The blonde's face lit up at his unexpected growth. He cleaned the blood of Risaka's poison fang and collected the magical cores from the corpses of the magical beasts. After depositing the cores into his inventory, he opened his status screen. Name: Uzumaki Naruto. Level: 27. Class: None. Title: Wolf Killer. HP: 5114. MP: 548. Fatigue: 0. State: Strength: 211. Constitution: 41. Agility: 106. Intelligence: 36. Sense: 141. Available status points: 5. Physical damage decrease: 20%. Skills: Passive skills: Unknown max. LV. Inflexible spirit LVL. 1. Guardian's necklace equipment A. Active skills: Sprint LVL. 1. Bloodlust LVL. 1. At some point he had already almost reached level 30. At the beginning of the raid, he was disappointed, but by taking down the goblin boss and his subordinates, he had unexpectedly gained 2 levels. It was fortunate that all the strong magical beasts gathered in the boss room. Wait, is it luck? It is questioned. Naruto thought about the 3 different paths and the difficulty of the boss room. If the low-level shinobi spent the entire assault taking down the weak goblins, they might have carelessly entered the boss room. So, the sudden jump in the goblin's strength could have resulted in a terrible end for the shinobi. I know that the appearance of goblins is not uncommon in low-ranked dungeons, but still. It was unusual for goblins to make a nest in the boss room like now. It was really impossible to predict what could happen in a dungeon. One person's luck could be a disaster for another. Only a strong power could protect someone in the chaos of the unknown that plagued this world. Because of that, Naruto wanted to be stronger. Surviving in a dungeon was one thing, but what if an invasion occurred in his village or a summons went out of control? What if he was attacked by dangerous shinobi in the middle of a mission? The shinobis had already become a dangerous existence. Even if they were being held back by the cage's rules, there were limits. Naruto had to gain the power to protect himself. There are limits to the strength of an average and prodigy shinobi. He had no such limits. By increasing his attributes and obtaining new items, his power would rise infinitely beyond any logic. And today, he had obtained another method to become stronger. Rune stones. Naruto took out the rune stone from his pockets. Like other elements, the floating holographic letters formed an information box of the rune stone. Rune stone. Stealth. Break the stone to acquire the skill. To an ignorant individual, this was just a small rock with strange markings on it. For a shinobi, he would make anyone drool with greed, regardless of his rank. A high rank could use the skill, while a low rank could sell it. Especially a rune stone with the skill, stealth. Something coveted among all shinobi. What Naruto had in his hands could probably fetch a price of several billion on the public market. 10 times that amount on a black market. Like an elemental fuinjutsu. The reason why a black market sale was more profitable was simple. It was because such sales left no record of who had purchased the scroll. Having a skill that no one else knew was the same as holding a hidden trump card or a secret weapon. Just like Matsumoto was hiding the stealth skill. If Naruto's sense stat wasn't high, his back would have been exposed like that. He shuddered at the thought. The priority at this time was becoming more and more evident. The usefulness of the stealth skill could not be underestimated. Naruto put into action what he had only dreamed of in the past. He clenched his fists around the rune stone. From the cracked rune stone, a subtle red light began to slowly surround his body. The phenomenon was similar to increasing your chakra by making it visible, except the light was red instead of blue. It wasn't a bad feeling. The red aura swirled around his body, then entered his lungs through his nose, and a strange power began to fill the blonde's body. A familiar electronic tone sounded in his head. You have learned stealth LVL. 1. But he celebrated. He had successfully absorbed the skill. Since he had not used a rune stone before, he felt nervous about the process, but it was faster and easier than he thought. At the thought of obtaining a rare ability, his heart began to race with excitement. Naruto tried the skill, stealth. The ability responded to his thoughts immediately, and his body began to fade. From the tips of his feet to the top of his head, his body became invisible. It was a strange feeling not to be able to see his own hands in front of him. Will this work? Uzumaki took out the dagger from him. He felt the gun in his hands, but couldn't see it. I wonder it runs through Naruto's mind. Like the kunai that Matsumoto wielded, Risaka's poison fang also had stealth applied to it. As he thought, it was not a special function of the traitor's weapon, but the power of the skill. What else can I apply this to? Naruto picked up a stone from the ground. And at the same time, he too disappeared from sight. What about this? He went and put his hand on the shoulder of a dead goblin, but he did not turn invisible. Little by little, he was beginning to understand the limits of the ability. It seemed to apply to something he was wearing and something he could hold in his hands. Suddenly, your mana has run out. Stealth will be cancelled. That? He asks incredulously. The stealth skill had been cancelled. It's only been a few seconds, but my mana is already gone. He had been trying to get used to the invisible form, testing its effects here and there. Naruto opened the skill list with a shocked expression. Skills. Passive skills. Unknown max. LV. Inflexible spirit LVL. 1. Active skills. Sprint LVL. 1. Bloodlust LVL. 1. Stealth LVL. 1. What he wanted was the stealth information. It was then that the words appeared in the air before him. Active skill. Stealth LVL. 1. Mana cost. 200, plus 10 second. Activate to disappear sight, sound, smell. Become invisible and hide the traces of your existence. The activation cost is 200 and it consumes 10 mana per second. Naruto sighed, no wonder his mana was depleted so quickly. MP. 7, 548. His remaining 7 mana seemed to laugh at him. It really sold out, he commented disappointed. With his current mana, he could maintain stealth for a little less than 35 seconds. However, if he took other abilities into account in the calculation, it would be much less than that. To think of it, even Matsumoto cast a skill after a few seconds. It was clear that the shinobi didn't do it for dramatic style. He probably didn't have much chakra to maintain the skill for long. If for high-rank Matsumoto it was like this, low-rankers probably wouldn't even be able to activate the skill. It seems that mana is the problem. He had invested points in all stats except intelligence until now, but his mana did not increase. This told him that, to increase his mana, he had to raise the intelligence stat. Do I have to start putting points in intelligence? He wonders. But he felt a little pointless investing his valuable points just to be able to use a skill for a little longer. Especially since Naruto felt that intelligence was not a stat directly usable in combat. Compared to the others, intelligence really feels useless. Strength, constitution, agility, sense. As each of those stats increased, he became noticeably stronger. But even when he had increased the intelligence stat through levels, he did not gain any valuable power. Compared to him when he was at level 1, his intelligence stat had almost quadrupled, but the only thing it gave him was a mana increase. That was all. Investing valuable points in the stat was just for that. Too much waste, he complains. Using those points on the other 4 attributes equivalent to directly strengthening his flesh and blood. In the end, Naruto decided that he would just increase his mana through levels. Status points would be distributed into other, more useful statistics. He remembered that he still had 5 points received from the emergency mission. After thinking about putting them in intelligence, Naruto preferred to use 3 points in strength and 2 points in constitution. State. Strength. 214. Constitution. 43. Agility. 126. Intelligence. 39. Sense. 139. Available status points. 0. Physical damage decrease. 20%. The moment Naruto smirked, the place shook. The interiors of the dungeon shook as if the world was ending. There was no time to delay. Uzumaki closed his statistics screen. He had deliberately waited inside just before the portal closed. Staying here any longer would mean that he would never be able to leave. Naruto did one last check before leaving the boss room. There was nothing he had forgotten. After going over every detail, Uzumaki quickly ran through the dungeon. As if telling him to leave, the dungeon shook intensely again. Just in time, the Suna shinobi together with the rebels arrived at the scene. They saw Naruto when the cave collapsed. "Shinobi-san, are there any other survivors?" "No." Ao asks. "Oh no," answers the blonde. "It's a shame, those from Suna have told me about the situation with Matsumoto. We rebels are grateful that he has eliminated that pest." The counselor thanks. "Ao-sama, we must return to report everything to Mei-sama," a subordinate speaks. "It will be the best." He prepares to jump between the trees. "By the way, Shinobi-san, how did the cave collapse?" Naruto and company begin to jump between the branches. The blonde's mind goes into overdrive to think of an excuse. The information about the dungeons was secret, no one should know, nor how to create them. But how a natural dungeon was created is the question on his mind. Shinobi-san, Ao brings the blonde back to reality. "By trying to quickly eliminate all the creatures I used paper bombs. I guess I went a bit overboard." He excuses himself with a fake smile. "You should be more careful. In my time, senior officials punished you if." He began an anecdote. Uzumaki zoned out, totally in his world. The mission was completed earlier than expected. Would he return to Konoha? No. Certainly he could help the rebels win the war, he would build trust, and the alliance would be successful. Regarding the Mizukage, he did not know if when the final fight came he would retreat. It was well known that the cage of Mizu no Kuni is a Jinchuriki, an enemy almost impossible to defeat. The thought of losing an opportunity to level up made the blonde sick. They arrived at the camp without much trouble with the rebels. They headed straight to where the rebellion leader was. Upon entering the main tent, Nara was meeting with the main resistance squad leaders. The shinobi of Konoha pointed out on a map different key points for the future victory of the rebels. Terumi listened attentively to the ninja suggestions. The leaders give their opinion from time to time about the geographical location of an area. "They're back, Ao told me about the situation," Terumi comments. "Naruto, you should stay here and help," the Nara asks. The blonde nods his head. He was going to request some time here anyway, so the Nara's request suited him like a glove. They would be interesting days, maybe he could level up. Chapter 19. Naruto was bored, so much fog and cloudy sky were very tedious sights. His missions in Kurigakure were largely about obtaining information. His chance to level up seemed stagnant. Uzumaki, Mei calls. "You must prepare, it is time for the final confrontation, Yura is on his way." "Understood," she says. The entire camp was running back and forth, preparing to confront the Mizukage, and the civilians were being transported to a safe area. Mei would be in charge of killing the cage, the others must eliminate the loyal shinobi. An hour passed, everyone was in their positions for the confrontation. Nara dedicated himself to creating an emergency strategy. Naruto was in the second defensive line, his wind chakra would be good for ranged attacks. This line would be in charge of supporting Terumi after annihilating the enemy ninjas. At least I can use my chakra, he murmurs with a smile. The army of loyalists appeared, they rushed into a direct confrontation. The first line was in charge of activating the minefield, the first two offensives of their enemies fell. Second offensive, attack orders the captain. Fuetin. Kazegakufu no jutsu great blow of wind technique Naruto shouts. The ninja creates a strong current of wind with the force of a tornado, which is shot towards the enemy, impacting them strongly. This disorients enemies, they were not expecting a wind user. Suiton. Tsunami no jutsu the rebels shout. They create a huge wave that engulfs everything in its path. The loyalists react in time and defend themselves with a wall of water. Some ninjas are in charge of rescuing those injured by the Fuetin. The first line is responsible for going hand to hand, there were two offensive and defensive lines. If the first offensive was reduced, the second supported, the first defensive prepared to resist, and the last used all its resources to eliminate everyone it could. Oten. Tsuchi Suru expanding earth and ninja hits the ground. Cracks appear in the ground, unbalancing his allies and enemies. The jutsus began to fly, the bodies fell to the ground without respite. Naruto was in his first guerrilla group, a world different from isolated combats. Oten. Doryuiden no jutsu. The same ninja who performed the small earthquake advances along a mud path, crosses the first line, eliminating 3 in his path. Naruto appears at Rasaka's fang, and with one movement attacks the shinobi. "You're fast," he says with a smile. Fuetin. Yuka's no jutsu gale technique exclaims the blonde. The ninja expels a gust of wind through his mouth at the rival, which strongly impacts him. The ninja manages to resist his drag and begins with the hand seals. Oten. Kaiden no jutsu killer bullet technique he rests his hands on the ground. Using his chakra, he is able to shape and harden the earth around him to create small sand bullets that are aimed at full speed at Naruto. He dodges the bullets as he approaches. He jumps and concentrates chakra on his leg, when he falls he is dodged by his enemy and the ground cracks. The rival approaches with an explosive race, his fist raised to hurt the blonde. Fuetin. K's Meijiri front hurricane kick performs the seals. The Doten user manages to dodge the kick. He throws a couple of shurikens and kunai, Naruto with his weapon stops the sharp objects. With that distraction the shinobi tries to attack from behind. Uzumaki dodges the surprise attack, mentally thanking his senses once again. The ninja opens his eyes, but twists to hit the head with a kick. The blonde steps back for a second. Being chased by his enemy, Naruto activates a system ability. You have activated Bloodlust. You have inflicted fear. The target will lose 50% of his attributes for 1 minute. Like Matsumoto, he saw a large shadow in front of his eyes, he felt like he was running through deep waters, and soon he became still. Naruto approached with pure speed and nailed Rasaka's fang. You have inflicted paralysis. You have inflicted bleeding. Ugh, he complains. The enemy falls to the ground, Naruto looks at the battlefield. The first line fell, the offense depended solely on the second, the defense prepared and supported from afar. A great presence filled the ground. Katarachi Yugura. Mei moved forward to push him away, isolate him if possible. She must not help his subordinates or the entire rebellion would fall. Imton. Imgen Gurmbu lava element. Lava balloons Terumi attacks. The Mizukage retreats, the woman tries to get him away from the place. Naruto opened his eyes when he saw the lava element for the first time, he looked powerful and very versatile. The Konoha shinobi dodges a water missile. The fights resumed again, the loyalists were rekindled by seeing their leader, so they attacked with more enthusiasm. However, the loyalists did not anticipate one thing. There were shinobi who were threatened with their family, so they had to support the Kage, even against his will. The rebels could count on one hand who turned to attack their allies. Naruto looked at the ninja who launched the water missile at him. Letting out a sigh, he gets into a defensive position. Karigakur no jutsu the ninja disappears into the mist. At least I'm not limited out here, Uzumaki comments. Fuetin. K's Nakunaru wind element. Dispersing wind. The shinobi who hid in the fog were annoying, all the inhabitants of Karigakur hated wind users. Naruto prepared to attack, the enemy luckily managed to dodge the blonde's attack. He jumped to avoid another kick, but felt like he was stabbed in the back. When he looked he found another blonde, a clone. The clone, upon completing its task, disperses in a cloud of smoke. Without rest, Naruto stops another attack, this time at his side. But it wasn't one, there were two who joined together to finish it. All the faithful realized that the Konoha ninja is someone dangerous. Suiton. Senbon no aim water element. Rain of needles exclaims the technique. 1. A layer of water rises from the ground, like a puddle. Once created, the ninja touches the puddle with his hand and causes his chakra to mix with the water, and then launches fine needles made of his own chakra, enhanced by the water. Suiton. Mizu shuriken water shuriken the ninja creates a series of shurikens made of water. Naruto first dodges the water shurikens, using the substitution jutsu he manages to avoid the second attack. Fuetin. Kazuru no Jutsu Wind Prison Technique, Naruto exclaims. The blonde ninja positions himself near the target and around his fist spins an intense wind that takes the shape of a sphere of wind, enclosing his rivals. Enemies cannot see outside and it suffers fine wind cuts. The companion of the loyalists approaches the blonde to kill him and help his companions. Thanks to his senses and agility, Naruto interrupts the jutsu as he was an easy target. He jumps and falls behind his new enemy. Sprint has been activated. Their movement speed is increased by 30%. While active, 1 mana will be used every minute. Quickly, Risaka's poison fang cuts his neck. Naruto addresses the enemies fallen by his jutsu and stabs the weapon into their stomachs. The effects kicked in immediately. You have leveled up. You have leveled up. Once Naruto eliminated the enemies from him, he once again looks at the battlefield. The attention was on him, who became slightly nervous. He had never stood out. I think I should get used to this, he murmurs. This time there were 5 who attacked him. The blonde created 4 shadow clones, each with a shinobi. He approached the closest, threw a couple of shurikens. He had to save as much chakra and mana to support Mei. Luckily, nearby rebels helped the clones. Soon, all the soldiers of the Yura army were unconscious or dead. Naruto noticed that those who helped were from the offensive line. We have to help Mei, he orders, and the ninjas nod enthusiastically. Naru watched from a distance as the group disappeared into the trees to go to where the large explosions could be heard. The defensive line stayed in place, prepared for a surprise attack. Now that they lost, the offensive lines were the last thing defending the camp and civilians. Have you seen the blonde shinobi? A shinobi asks his partner. Yes, he has been incredible, he comments enthusiastically. Problem blondes, Naru speaks with a smile. From here he will be famous. He knew Naruto for being a jounin not at all outstanding. Even in Konoha he was not well known, his missions were typical, without any spectacular output. An average shinobi who was not able to appear in the bingo book. Attention, screams a shinobi, something is coming. Everyone took their positions, the murmurs died down to take on serious expressions. The fight was not over yet. Naruto followed the trail of destruction, ground melted with lava, trees destroyed, water here and there. They were running on the ground when something hit one of the ninjas. Terumi Mei was injured. Shit, the blonde curses. Mei-san, rest. Uzumaki, wait, the woman gasps. Someone take her to the doctors, someone else alert the strategists, Naruto ordered. What will you do? Mei asks as she stands up. Buy some time. Yura was approaching, her appearance was that of a child carrying a cane. A wound vented steam and closed, the chakra of a biju. You should surrender to me, maybe I can spare your lives, says Yura. You're very narcissistic, the blonde comments. What will you do alone? He asks amused. Time. Concentrating chakra into his feet, Naruto launches into an explosive sprint. With the staff, the cage resists the attack of the dagger, beginning a fight between weapons. The blonde dodges a blow from the cane and attacks, one of the ends of the cane stops the attack. Yugura's long-distance advantage handled the fight. An explosion of smoke appears on the Mizukage's back, a shadow clone with a kunai pierces his enemy's back. However, it dissolves into water. Naruto concentrates his senses to the maximum. He knows where the attack is coming from, but his reaction time is slow. Pushed into a tree, Naruto twists to land on it, with no time to rest, he must dodge a water attack. Suiton. Suryudan no Jutsu water element. Water dragon missile jutsu, exclaims the cage. Guiton. Gufusei wind element. Hurricane impulse. By concentrating wind chakra in his feet, Naruto is able to achieve great speed for a few minutes, with which he easily dodges the attack. Naruto creates a shadow clone, which launches into hand-to-hand combat. Yugura easily destroys him, the little information that reaches the blonde is null and useless. The cage performs a pair of seals. Suiton. Daibakafu no Jutsu great waterfall technique. A ninja suddenly expels pressurized water, strongly impacting the blonde. The ninja's body explodes in smoke, revealing that he was a clone. Yugura dodges a slash from Naruto and twists to hit a kick, which the blonde manages to catch. Seeing his attack stopped, Yugura uses his other leg to hit the blonde. Whoever releases it and moves away from him, drawing his staff again, launches himself to attack. I have to take the staff from him, Naruto murmurs inaudibly. Preparing to take the blow, Naruto grabs the cage's weapon, who attempts to retrieve it. A small push and pull begins. Uzumaki appears superior in strength to him, but the Mizukage is not far behind him. In a surprising moment, a shadow clone appears next to Yugura and attacks. To avoid it, he decides to abandon his staff. The blonde holds the staff, which was imbued with chakra. It's a good weapon, he comments. Uzumaki sends the staff to his inventory. Yugura opens her eyes as she sees his weapon disappear without a trace. The cage launches into a taijutsu confrontation. Naruto began to push Yugura back, his body was not small and weaker. Noticing that he would not win, the cage backed away. Guiton. Infiltrating no Jutsu Wind Dragon Technique. Naruto creates a huge dragon with the force of a hurricane that brutally drags the enemy. Yura was able to resist the attack, he began another series of seals. Uzumaki did not allow him to finish them, using his left hand he grabbed the shinobi's hands, with no chance to dodge he received a deep cut on his stomach before kicking the blonde. You have inflicted paralysis. You have inflicted bleeding. The target's resistance is too high, the effect was cancelled. The blonde shinobi is knocked against a tree, thanks to his great resistance his life is not affected. Standing up again, he patted himself to check for broken bones. An emergency search has appeared. Emergency quest. Kill your enemies. There are people with murderous intentions near the player. Get rid of them and ensure your safety. If this quest is not completed, a punishment will be issued as a result. Enemies killed required. 2 enemies killed. 0 do. The blonde wonders. It will be because of the Biju. Yura at the beginning of the fight did not take the blonde seriously, but he had resisted his attacks very well, and his blows were not bad. He had a constant feeling of danger every time he lunged forward, a voice in his head telling him to kill him. Fuetin. Dai Kamitachi Great Cutting Whirlwind. The Konoha ninja create several gusts of wind that then come together and form a large tornado, which goes straight towards the opponent. Suitin. Sujin Water Element. Water Shield. The vertex appears in front of Yugura's body, he receives the blow and returns it to the blonde. Unable to anticipate his own offensive, Naruto receives countless wounds on his body. The system began to mark how much vitality decreases. Luckily the jutsu was short-lived and HP was not drastically reduced. Yura got upset and his body was covered with a cloak of red chakra. Naruto knew what it was, the Biju cloak. The opponent approaches at breakneck speed and punches. Naruto dodges it and moves out of the way, the blow left a crater in the ground, the tail lengthens to hit. However, Naruto manages to dodge it, but his skin burns a little from the friction he has with the corrosive chakra. The shinobi of the leaf could not be distracted and used clones to replace himself, the second tail appreciated, and a shock wave moved the blonde a few centimeters away. You have activated stealth. The Jinchuriki looked everywhere to find his enemy, a cut appears on his back, Yura turned around to punch, but there was nothing. New cuts appeared sporadically, and the fury in the cage cooled, the wounds healed, but the Bijuu's own chakra irritated the skin of its wearer. Sprint has been activated, your movement speed is increased by 30%. While active, 1 mana will be used every minute. The attack soon became faster, but the mana was depleting very quickly as well. Naruto decided to sacrifice his stealth and use pure speed. Yura was able to react to the Uzumaki's presence in front of him, so he blocked the attack. Meanwhile, the electronic tone that only Naruto could hear continued after dodging a swipe. You have learned Advanced Dagger Mastery LVL. 1. You have learned Life Stab LVL. 1. Sprint has leveled up. Even in a situation like this, the blonde comments with amusement. Faced with the ninja's distraction, the Jinchuriki manages to hurt him deeply. Naruto retreats hissing in pain, the wound was mortal, on his chest were the marks of 4 deep lines. Status recovery, except he states. Yura opened his eyes, his enemy had just healed almost instantly. Furious, he activated the third tail, his body disappeared in a demonic appearance, the skin evaporated, turning reddish, the eyes were white. Naruto prepares his dagger before his enemy, he could not defeat him, but he would resist until the rebels arrived with a plan. He decided to use the new ability he gained, with his mana depleted and chakra low, it would be his last chance to seriously harm him. Life Stab has been activated. Active skill. Life Stab LVL. 1. Mana cost. 70. Specific for daggers. Stabs enemy vitals for fatal damage. You have learned to attack effectively. Naruto used sprint to get close to the Mizukage, with a vital stab he buried Risaka's fang in the chest of his adversary. The resistance was too high, so the effects were of no use, the Jinchuriki slapped him away. Uzumaki from the ground was panting, he watched as the wound healed instantly, he cursed out loud his stupidity of facing a Jinchuriki alone. He stood up again and this time used chakra to get closer, he threw a punch that Yura resisted, but could feel the pure force behind it. They began a battle of speed, mana and stamina decreasing drastically. Upon reaching 70 stamina, Naruto could not avoid the attack, status recovery was not available. Damn system, he growls. MP. 231 fifths 967. Yura started punching the blonde again, like a punching bag. Consciousness left Naruto, who used a jutsu that he didn't like very much. Hajukage Bushin no Jutsu, he growled loudly. Alarm, your life has been reduced to 30%. A skill. Perseverance. It was activated. Damage will be reduced by 50%. Many clones appeared throughout the area, they launched a suicidal attack. Naruto fell to the ground exhausted, barely conscious to maintain the jutsu. The information about the destroyed clones alarmed him. Uzumaki-san, a scream in the distance, Yura who had approached to kill Naruto, moves away to dodge several jutsus launched. They took too long, he complains before falling unconscious. Chapter 20. Shouts of commands reach Naruto's ears, and he moans softly. The system screen flashes in front of his eyes, the emergency search covering his view. He saw that there were several injured shinobi, Kira along with other people were healing the injured. No one had noticed that he woke up. The system forced his consciousness back to reality, so he had to end the search. The punishment, what would it be? Would his heart stop? Would he be sent to the desert? Or would he lose something priceless? Yura was weak, like Mei and other shinobi, no one had the chance to move to finish everything. The battlefield was deformed, even the Biju appeared. Naruto activated stealth and sprint, he would end everything in one fell swoop. He moved quickly and silently, Uzumaki deactivated stealth to show himself before the Mizukage, who widened his eyes. "Excuse me, but if I don't there will be punishment," he murmurs. But the clean cut he kills Yura. The Biju growls weakly as he sees his Jinchuriki die in the blonde's hands. Sanbi begins to emerge from the body in a red corrosive bubbling mass. The shinobi stand in a defensive position, Naruto jumps to gain some distance from the huge turtle. However, the Biju slowly begins to disappear. "What's going on?" Naruto asks Mei. "I think that when a Jinchuriki dies with his Biju sealed, two things can happen. The first, the Biju is released without any ties, so it has all the power of it. The second, if the Biju in question has a close relationship with its Jinchuriki, it can die and take a few years to re-emerge. Look at the body of the former cage. I'm not sure." An emergency search has appeared. Emergency quest. Kill your enemies. There are people with murderous intentions near the player. Get rid of them and ensure your safety. If this quest is not completed, a punishment will be issued as a result. Enemies killed required. 1. Enemies killed. 1. Naruto feels his heart beating, but it was not a good thing, the Biju died. Why was there still an enemy alive? What would happen? Would the mission remain active or would he take the punishment? The system appeared again as an annoying reminder, a respite to flood with confidence, it would take what I threw at it. The emergency search has been interrupted. Since the player has not completed the quest, a punishment will be given. Statistics have decreased. The chakra was permanently blocked. No shit, he cursed, almost tearing out his hair. Another chance. The player's enemy was not nearby. New task set. Search for the hidden enemy. Reward. Unlock chakra. There was one chance, just one. Naruto reasons and breathes a sigh of relief, the problem is not knowing where to start. Dean approached his comrade, analyzing him carefully, as if he knew something was wrong with Naruto. "We should go back," Dean comments. "You're right, we must do many things," Mei smiles. "We better go back, I will send the signed alliance soon, don't worry. But I would like you to help us, there are still quite a few things to fix." The Konoha shinobi look at each other trying to guess each other's thoughts. Dean nodded to Mei, clarifying that they would stay longer. They retraced their steps to the rebel camp, ready to rest after the battle. That night, Naruto didn't sleep a wink trying to find some form of information. He rolled around restlessly to try to find a comfortable position and snorted when he felt his frozen feet being uncovered, which he covered again. When the dream came, Ao appeared, requesting his presence. Mei-sama requests them. The blonde looked at his companion and noticed marked circles under her eyes. He tried to think of anything except having interrupted the Nara's sleep, knowing that this is sacred to the lazy clan. They prepared and left quickly. Naruto on the way rubbed his eyes that burned from lack of sleep. "Thank you, Ao." The woman looked as tired as them. "Well, I would like you to go to this location. We believe that there are still followers of Yura, so they should investigate and eliminate them." "Understood," Dean yawned shamelessly. "These brats, in my time." Both Konoha shinobi left the tent without wanting to listen to the annoying monologue. Mei looked with a deathly face at her assistant who trembled with fear. With only what they needed, they left the camp to go to the location marked on the map. With only what they needed, they left the camp to go to the location marked on the map. "I'm telling you we're lost," the blonde huffed for the umpteenth time. "Odd, this is what happens to me because of lack of sleep," Nara stressed, annoyed. "Well, I'm sorry." He raises his hands in peace. "I knew that the Nara got irritated from lack of sleep, but you are on another level." Naruto looked at the map now in his hands, located the camp, and from there he traced the route they took with his finger. They were in the opposite direction. I put away the map and looked ahead. The system blinked somewhat lazily on the new mission message. "Come on, it's that way," he pointed out. An hour and a half later, they were at the marked location. It was a bastille, so they looked at it for a while to find an opening to infiltrate. Naruto looked at his partner who was rubbing her face to try to keep her eyes open. Nara was not working properly today. The blonde looked carefully at the towers, there were at least two located near the ledge facing in opposite directions. 6 men rolled along the path, always timed correctly, taking their time and in full view of any comrade. The wall seemed a little slippery, so a stable approach would be difficult. "Damn it, look for the alarm," Dean said. "Okay, 1 minute." Moving through the bushes, this would be easier with the trees of Konoha. Naruto reaches a river and hides behind a dead throne. There were two shinobi, facing opposite directions with their hands near their cases. The blonde brought his Risaka dagger from the inventory, rummaging through his tool bag for something useful and silent. Suppressing a hiss of disgust, Naruto looks around to find something, just stone and more stone. He takes two the size of his hand and observes which would be the best place to throw it. He decides on a distant log and hits with precision. The loud sound makes both guards alert. "I'll go see," the one on the right whispers. The shinobi advanced cautiously, ready to find out that forceful sound. He crouched down to examine the surroundings. "You have activated stealth." Naruto stabbed his dagger into the base of the spine, muffled a cry of pain with his hand, and dragged the body to its previous hiding place. Upon arrival he cuts the shinobi's neck so as not to prolong the suffering. He would not die with that cut, but his incapacitated life is a hell that he does not wish on anyone. But stealth still activated, he approaches the investigating partner, and before he turns around he kills him by stabbing him through the heart. Deactivating his ability, he dragged the body to some bushes, taking a few minutes to erase any traces. He didn't need other guards alerting the others. But what is the need to guard this place? Why move away from the bastille? But those questions, Naruto moved forward cautiously. The river reached a sower, he smiled knowingly. Bingo. Somewhere in the elemental nations, in a hidden cave. Somewhere in the elemental nations, in a hidden cave. A man hissed furiously, his plan on Kiri had been destroyed. Something that took years of having a strong grip on the Jinchuriki, this brat came to destroy everything. He tried to breathe normally and calm down. "Damn son of Minato, I will destroy you," Naruto he roared, blinded by fury. Chapter 21. Inside the sower, Naruto held his nose as the water stank of rot. With each splashing step in the stream, the shinobi focused on his ears. There was no one around, the hallway was not guarded, and it is strange, considering that they are ninjas who can sneak anywhere. Naruto almost tripped over something rigid and, wishing he had some light, he touched the obstacle carefully. He gagged reflexively, disgust coursing through every inch of his body. It's a corpse, and it's not just one, there were 5 accumulated here. One on top of the other. With force of will, he advanced, trampling over the corpses. In the end he managed to reach a wooden staircase. He climbs carefully to avoid meeting anyone, luckily none of the steps groaned under his weight. In front of the door he stands for a few minutes thinking. "You have activated stealth. He barely crossed the door, closing it very carefully. The hallway did not have any windows and contains empty cells. The prison stank of waste and urine, it seems that cleanliness has no place. He examined every inch and dropped his ability, he needs to recharge his mana. Naruto, deciding that he had waited long enough, walked to the heavy door. Activating the stealth once again, he left the prison. Entering another hallway, which was full of doors. "Have you heard that Yura lost?" A guard appeared around the corner. "But that's impossible, he's a bucking Jinchuriki," his companion replies. Naruto moves out of the way. "They're rumors," he growls. "Man, you should clean the drain, it stinks." The guard covers his nose. "You're right." The guards stand next to a door. With his enhanced senses, Naruto hears faint moans of pain and sobs. He decides to continue to the other hallway, ignoring the person who was there. He would soon return and help him, he promises himself. Back in another hallway full of doors, he decides to enter a random door. Releasing a sigh of regret, Naruto looks at the woman hanging, like a pig, from the ceiling with chains. She's not breathing. Her body was full of cuts and burns. She doesn't even have the build of a kunoichi, so she had been tortured just for selfish pleasure. He closes the door and moves forward again, wanting to get to the alarm quickly. "That idiot Ryoko. Damn fool. Leaving me alone on the beat." A frustrated guard appears. "Insufficient mana. Stealth has been disabled." Shit. Naruto walks into the nearest door. That idiot had nothing better to do. Why should I be the one to watch? The guard walks through the door, too furious to notice any details. Are you with the rebels?" A voice gasps, the shinobi turns around. He's a boy, Hikari's age, beaten everywhere. Him huddled in a corner, trying to be invisible. Naruto approaches in a hurry, unable to ignore him since he looked like his sister. The boy clutches his right side, his face wrinkled in pain. A broken rib. He pats carefully. "Yes, I think so," he says, uncomfortable. The shinobi purses his lips, searching in system for something that could help him. Upon entering the shop, he finds his target. A healing potion. Your level is insufficient." "Damn, thanks for the help system," he murmurs furiously. "Mister?" The boy gasped with each letter. "Is it difficult for you to breathe?" questions the shinobi. "Yeah." He patted very carefully, the broken rib had not yet punctured the lung. If he moved carelessly he could die. But he couldn't leave, especially if he was the same age as his sister. Naruto wished he had his chakra available, he needs a Kage Bushin. But he couldn't do any shinobi skills without chakra, right? "I've never tried it," he sighs to himself. The blonde steps away carefully, not wanting to scare the injured boy. He took his time to concentrate, shaping the mana carefully as he had not experimented with this energy. Congratulations. New skill acquired. Shaping mana. Active skill. Mana shaping. Mana cost. 350 per use. The player will be able to shape mana for their base abilities. The cage Bushin appeared next to him, just as surprised as the original. The boy blinked to try to understand how there were two identical blondes. He will stay to take care of you so that no one hurts you. Well, the boy didn't seem sure. Calm down, I'll get you out of here. But I have a task to complete. Wasting no time, Naruto activated stealth. This time he didn't take the time to look at anything around him, he ran through the hallways, dodging as many guards as he could, before having to duck into a room to recover the mana. He seemed to be in a file room. Good place to fall. He grabbed the nearest file. He was talking about the supply routes and who was in charge here. Now, I need to deactivate the alarm. That's all. I'll be back later, says Naruto. What is this? Akatsuki. Another chance. Set task. Search for the hidden enemy. Research progress. 5/100. Decided, I would return as soon as I can. The blonde activated the ability again and left. He had finally found the exit from the building. The courtyard was quite huge, and many shinobi were sitting drinking or playing cards. He moved to a corner to find the alarm. Even if he deactivates it, he will have to run as fast as he can to a hiding place to recover the mana. He looked at a platform that was guarded by a shinobi, who was polishing his kunai, and in view of the guards above. MP. 350-585. All or nothing. He ran with all his might and, without hesitation, slashed the shinobi's neck. He turned and cut the alarm cord. A post with an incendiary bomb, which when activated produced a loud noise to call the stragglers. He took out all the saved kunai and explosive bombs from the inventory. Quickly, he throws the throwing weapons at the courtyard guards. Hi. The explosions connected immediately, killing several drunks, causing panic. He took 3 shurikens and threw them at the guards above, hitting them in the eyes to momentarily incapacitate them. Insufficient mana to use the skill. Stealth has been disabled. Damned, you will pay dearly, the leader of the place shouted. Suiton. Senbon no aim water element. Rain of needles. A random ninja initiated the attack. Uzumaki dodges it and stops 2 kunais that were heading for his vital points. He jumps and throws a kunai with an explosive tag, the shinobi dodge it easily. At the moment of falling, he takes Risaka from the inventory and deflects a katana. With a superficial cut he decides the life of his opponent. He lets a random ninja approach and hits his chest with an open palm, simulating a Hyuga punch. He allowed the shinobi's companions to tackle the victim and smiled. Hi, breathe less. He dodged another hail of needles and began to wish he had his chakra. He really might admire a guy if he didn't have his green spandex and clone of him. He threw a smoke bomb at the enemies and dove into the smoke screen. Thanks to his enhanced senses, locating each enemy was quite easy. He managed to take out 2 before the others retreated. He took a moment to take a deep breath and catch his breath. Suiton. Tapu water element. Water missile. 1 shouts. Naruto felt his right ribs being crushed. He fell to the ground a few feet above the ground. He compassed himself and kicked the approaching guy to deliver the finishing blow. With Risaka he deflected the rain of shurikens, some stuck in his arm, and he extracted them almost without care, to throw them back. He grabbed 2 tagged kunai, the last ones, and threw them at the guards above. The first managed to divert it, the second still incapacitated in one eye. He miscalculated and ended up with his throat pierced. Suiton. Ja no Kuchi water element. Snake mouth. The blonde was going to be hit from behind if it weren't for being moved from his position. He smiled with relief as he saw Nara's shadow disconnect from his own, regaining control. He would later make it up to her, of course, if he remembers after all this mess. 3 kunais with explosive tags fell, seriously injuring several. The number gradually decreased, with 15 survivors plus the leader. 2 shadow spikes emerged from beneath an enemy, being impaled mercilessly. Naruto approached 2 and killed them fluidly. MP. 492-585. Sprint has been activated. 5 more fell with their throats open, bleeding and paralyzed. 3 came out terrified by terror, they ended up trapped by a shadow. What are you doing? Fuji-1 questions loudly. My body, it moves by itself, he explains, terrified. Damn no Fuji, he screams, drowning in his blood. Ryo, Fuji damned. In the end, they were killed by Fuji, who was then forced to cut his own throat. Naruto sighed and focused on the leader, who ignored how his companions fell like flies at his feet. He began to make a series of seals, but was stopped at the last minute by a shadow. Uzumaki gained a little momentum and finished off the remaining shinobis. Bean appeared, yawning, and ended the leader's life. The blonde fell to the ground, completely exhausted. He grimaced as he felt the blood, stood up again and looked at his companion who was nodding still. Thank you, Dean. Problem blondes, they both snorted in amusement. Chapter 22. The days passed peacefully after the assault on the Bastille by Yagura's followers. Naruto and Dean returned to the village and reported everything to the Hokage. At least Dean, the blonde, was wondering if he could tell him everything that happened since the first dungeon. The daily quests kept appearing, Naruto leveling up in the instant dungeons. So right now the blonde has just increased his level once again, which was very fast due to the combinations of the new skills. Name: Uzumaki Naruto. Level: 39. Class: None. Idol: Wolf Killer. HP: 7229. MP: 683. Fatigue: 0. State: Strength: 97. Constitution: 59. Agility: 97. Intelligence: 51. Sense: 81. Available status points: 0. From 29 to 39, he had gained 10 levels. Aside from the time when she had entered her first instant dungeon at level 1 and left at level 17, she had not gained levels so quickly before. Even more, it was a much lower level back then and was expected to level up faster. The monsters were easy to defeat, they had a very easy to read attack pattern, but Naruto simply attacked left and right. The Mizukage was an enemy impossible for him to defeat, he wanted to be stronger. Meanwhile, Naruto discovered a flaw in hunting with his new ability. He has insufficient mana to use the skill. Insufficient mana to use the skill. Again? Uzumaki wrinkled his face in annoyance. As he had done before, Naruto took out a mana potion from his inventory to fill his mana. He had bought it from the system store. Naruto looked at the mana potion information. Mana potion, rarity, E, type, consumable, drink to recover 500 MP. It's a mana recovery potion. You can keep this item in your inventory. Cannot be exchanged. It would have been helpful with a child in Kiri. He sighs and reads the last thing carefully. Can't it be exchanged? I wonder what will happen if I try. The dungeon boss along with his subjects, who were lizards, appeared. Naruto sighed, he had to take care of the dungeon first and then satisfy his curiosity, he had a guinea pig to use. Hikari sneezed, scaring the devilish cat, Tora. Immediately, the insults from his colleague soon sounded through the hearing aid, leaving a high-pitched whistle in his ear. Lizardmen were one of the most difficult magical beasts to face in a C-rank dungeon, but Naruto had skillfully dodged the attack of a lizard mage without harming him even a hair. Somehow, he felt like the man was getting faster every day. That cannot be true. Uzumaki spit out small pieces of rocks from his mouth. The spit on the ground was black. These bastards. A simple lizardman using petty tricks forced him to inhale some smoke. Naruto was upset by this, and it showed on his face. Bloodlust has been activated. His eyes radiated powerful murderous rage. You have inflicted fear. Targets will lose 50% of all attributes for 1 minute. The lizardman had been affected with fear by bloodlust. Naruto took advantage of the chaos and threw Arasaka's poison fang. The dagger flew in a straight line, directly into the forehead of one of the spear lizards. But the status diminished, the blonde's dagger was too fast to avoid. Watching his companion fall, the other lizard roared in anger and lashed out with its spear. But his weapon hit nothing but air. Naruto had already disappeared into thin air. The lizard wizard screamed in panic. When the magician repeated his words to the one with the spear, the warrior lizard turned towards the magician and let out a bestial roar. Those with spears bared their teeth and approached the magician. The magician did not lose his fighting spirit. Suddenly a hole appeared in the chest of the one possessing the spear. Blood spilled over the wizard, who took a step back, surprised. As he released stealth mode, the spear that had pierced the lizard's chest showed the shape of him. The hands wielding it belonged to Naruto. He dropped the weapon, and the body attached to him dropped to the ground. Thud as the body fell, Uzumaki again summoned Rasaka's poison fang from the other corpse's forehead to his hand. The lizard wizard's hand summoned fire again. The blonde had no intention of letting the thing bother him again. Sprint. The distance between him and the lizard decreased in an instant. The lizard wizard's eyes widened. His reptilian eyes were quite unpleasant. Naruto easily dodged his flames and appeared behind the wizard's back. Before the lizard realized what happened, Rasaka's poison fang pierced its spine. Life stab. The Ayok the magician shouted. The second time he was stabbed, the scream was much shorter. The lizard wizard vomited blood and fell. Thud in his head, Naruto raised his fists. It was a fair fight. Good. As if he was congratulating him, the system's electronic tone rang. You have leveled up. The player has reached a necessary level. A familiar message and an unfamiliar one. A necessary level. At this point, Naruto had no idea what this meant. But as he read the following messages, Naruto's heartbeat accelerated to the point that it almost hurt him. He had to make some mental effort to try to calm himself. The mission job change has appeared. Would you like him to accept? Yes or no? Mission of job change. Until now, he had focused on his levels and statistics, not giving much importance to a certain part of his status screen. Name: Uzumaki Naruto. Level: 40. Job: none. The third line of the display status is working. If there is such a thing as class advancement mission, he thinks excitedly. Instead of none, it would be an opportunity to put a different word in there. he would get a class. His heartbeat increased. At the sight of an opportunity to become stronger, he couldn't calm down. Would you like to accept? Yes or no? The yes or no options kept flashing before his eyes. Of course. What kind of idiot would throw this opportunity away? Naruto was prepared to accept the mission, but he stopped on instinct. He had no way of knowing what kind of mission he would receive. The instinctive hesitation was followed by a sense of caution. They were in the most dangerous place in the world right now. Even if he had become accustomed to C-rank dungeons, a dungeon was a dungeon. There was no need to ignorantly invite danger here. The leader advanced ready to kill the invader. Even though his vassals fell, he remained intact. First I'll kill you, the blonde says coldly. There was no epic fight, no luck for the lizard boss. The dungeon dissolved, Naruto was in the forest, luckily there were no shinobi around. I must go with the guinea pig, he says with a macabre smile. Hikari sneezes again, she apologized when she saw that everyone in the pain room was looking at her. Haddock shakes his head and receives the part from him, his students approach as well. Hey, old man, when are you going to give us real missions? She asks rudely. Behave, Hikari. Sakura gently hits the back of her partner's head. But Hokage-sama, we are leaving, the jounin says hurriedly. Naruto arrives and finds his sister melting away from him on the couch. Slowly a twisted smile floods the blonde's face. Oh, but she's my favorite person, the oldest says sweetly. Compassion brother, compassion I beg. Hikari falls to the ground kneeling. No more food tests. Waterfall tears fall from the miner's eyes, a drop of sweat slides down the blonde's head. How was it? Asks the redeed with bright eyes. The blonde lets out an exhausted sigh. He really didn't expect his sister's performance. It doesn't matter, his sister inflates her cheeks in annoyance. I need you to help me check something. What is it? Hikari inquires. Naruto takes out a vitality potion from the store. The youngest opens her eyes surprised by how the object appeared out of nowhere. Grab, the older one asks. Hikari tries to grab the bottle, but it disappears instantly when it is out of the older man's hand. I see, Naruto reflects. While the blonde reflected and thought of ideas, his sister hovered around him asking for an explanation. An idea passes through the Uzumaki's head. Open your mouth, he orders seriously. The miner became serious and did as requested. Naruto walked over and poured the red liquid into his sister's mouth. The potion did not disappear and his sister's exhausted face was revitalized. What was that? I feel very energetic, she exclaims enthusiastically. Yosh, if a side effect on you is being a whirlwind, you are now more disastrous than normal. Her sister immediately starts ranting against her, even accusing him of being a crazy brother. His ultra energy was exhausting for the oldest. The night came and he prepared the food. How could he disappear without anyone suspecting? Obviously he should talk to the Hokage in a moment about this situation. Night came and the blonde couldn't sleep a wink. Concentrating on breathing, Naruto forced himself to fall asleep. If the job change mission started tomorrow, he needed to sleep to do his best. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.